January 21, 2021 meeting of the Human Relations Commission to order. Please remember to mute yourself. If you are not speaking, when you speak, please state your name to help Miranda with the minute taking. To begin, I'll begin with the introduction. I am Matur Alir, the chair. You guys could just pop in. I can barely see anybody there. Call on Barry.
This is Barry Nelson, commission member.
Amita.
I am Hamida Dakane, member.
Cody.
Cody Severson, vice chair.
I can't see I think I see Hamid.
Ahmed Shale, member.
Who am I missing?
This is John Strand. I'm here on the phone, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, John. Is Letissa there? Abdulwali? Caroline? Okay, and we also do have a staff on here, Tia.
Hi, Tia Brasa, City of Fargo Planning Department.
And okay, the next item is to approve the agenda. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. This is Barry.
Thank you, Barry. Can I get a second?
I'll second Hamida.
Thank you, Amita. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. This is Cody.
Opposing, the same sign. Motion carried. The next item is to approve the minutes. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll motion to approve the minute.
Thank you, Amita. Can I get a second?
I second that, Ahmed.
Thank you, Hamid. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. The next item is public comment. Those who wish in commission must use the sign-in sheet. The speakers must state their name and will be limited to 2 minutes. Comments should not contain profanity or personal attack. The staff, do we have any sign up for public comments or on the phone?
There is no one that is signed up or is in the chambers, Chair.
Hello, this is Abdulwali. Hi.
Thank you for joining Abdulwali, and I see Carlin there, the two members. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. If there's anyone present who wants to speak.
No, Chair.
Thank you. The next item here is the announcement of the 2021 Human Relations Awards winners. Each year, MLK Human Relations Award are presented to a youth, adults, and an organization that have made significant human relation in the Fargo-Moorhead community. So I just wanted to recognize the youth award winner is Claire Derby. The adult award winner is Nola Storm. And the organization award winner is Women Initiative Network of Liberia, or WINS Liberia. The award presentation will take place at the next meeting of the City of Fargo Commission this coming Monday, January 25th at 5 p.m. You can watch it live on the city social media page, the city website at fargond.gov/stream, or on a local cable TV channel 56. I want to say congratulations to the award winners and thank you for the community members who submit the nominations. And next item here is the local rental assistance program outcome. So we have a presenter, Sarah Assenbergen, from the Southeastern North Dakota Community Action Agents. And then we also do have Sarah Kennedy from Presentation Partners in Housing will present on the rental assistance program administered in partnership with the city of Fargo in the last 6 weeks of 2020. So is Sarah present or joining us?
Yes, Sarah Hasbergen is present and Sarah Kennedy is as well because I see her.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. We'll just quick do introductions while the PowerPoint is getting pulled up. So I'm Sarah Hasbergen. I am the Self-Sufficiency Coordinator at SENCA, which stands for Southeastern North Dakota Community Action Agency. And Sarah,
Good afternoon. Yeah, hi everyone. Sarah and I are happy to be here. I'm Sarah Kennedy. I'm the Homeless Prevention and Diversion Program Director at Presentation Partners in Housing.
All right, so I'm going to just jump in and we'll throw some numbers, but also just share some information about the Red River Task Force Homeless Prevention funding that we partnered on together. The goal of the program was to really identify and to try to work on the crisis that we've been seeing in the community, particularly for households with unpaid rent and utility bills as a result of COVID-19, overcrowding at emergency shelters, families doubled up, and temporary eviction moratoriums that maybe didn't quite meet the need of the community. And so because of all of these things that had built up over time since March of 2020, there was a significant issue in our community that we all worked together to address. Next slide, please. So the funding was through the City of Fargo allocated from the CARES Act. The funding was split 3 ways: SENCA, Presentation Partners in Housing, and the City of Fargo. The funding was used to assist households with rent and utilities that accrued after March 1 of 2020. Initially, there was $1.2 million available. I think I speak for the whole group when we were very nervous about our ability to spend that, and were shocked by the need that we saw in the community and rapidly realized more was going to have to be requested from the City Commission to respond to the need. Ultimately, between 2 of the 3 programs, SENCA and Presentations Partners spent $1.628 million. The exact number is there in 2 months, which was actually closer to 6 weeks to 2 months. And Karin, I know, had some information about the City of Fargo totals as well.
Yeah, so the city program, we were operating along with Syndica and Presentation Partners, and the city's program was over $550,000 as well. So all told, this program was essentially $2.3 million by the time all of the funding was requested and finalized.
Thank you. Can you do the next slide, please? So the target households were residents of Cass County who did not have vouchers or current housing assistance, which is, referred to as Section 8 vouchers, or people who are receiving ongoing housing assistance. Households were able to self-certify a COVID-19 hardship and self-certify income. These guidelines were taken from the eviction moratorium, so that lined up perfectly to really identify people who are falling under that eviction moratorium, and we're still having those challenges. You can do the next slide. So the process, just wanted to share a little bit. One of the biggest reasons this program was able to be as successful as it was is because it was very low barrier. It allowed us to assist as many households as possible, as rapidly as possible. All households in need were guided to call First Link, or they could call Senka or Presentation Partners, and they were given a link to apply. If households weren't able to do that link, whether they had technology issues or things like that, we completed the application with them over the phone. The customized application mapped up with the eviction moratorium and was used to verify eligibility and indicate the need. Once people completed that application, they were assigned to an agency and a lead worker. That lead worker contacted people within 48 hours and verified all of the information and started contacting landlords and utility companies to get verifications of the amount past due. And Senka and Presentation Partners met weekly with the City of Fargo team to review outcomes, troubleshoots, identify duplicates, etc. The applications opened on November 13th and closed on December 22nd. Next slide, please. So the outputs, in that time frame, 1,473 requests were approved, 1,091 unique households served, which means that many households had more than one bill that was late, where we were able to help with both rent and utilities. We helped with 782 rental payments, 608 utility bills, 73 security deposits, and 17 mortgage payments. Next slide. So this breaks down the total of that assistance that Senka and Presentation Partners provided. These numbers don't have the data from the City of Fargo that Karin shared, but shows that we paid $1,301,350,000, I apologize, in rent payments, 235,000 utility payments, for 41,000 security payments. The one thing we really wanted to be sure to point out is this took a lot of staff time to do. We all had staff working a lot of overtime, a lot of extra hours, weekends, holidays to make this project happen, which totaled 2,249 staff hours over that time. So we just wanted to make sure to recognize the staff that made this possible as well. Next slide. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Sarah Kennedy, who's going to share more about the Homeless Prevention and Diversion Project.
Thank you, Sarah. Thanks for giving such a good overview of what the last 2 months of 2020 was. We're super grateful for that partnership with the City of Fargo and to have this kind of rare opportunity during such a crazy time with this pandemic to help households in such a low barrier way that was really important. So I'm going to kind of switch gears a little bit here and just kind of bring the context out a little further into what our typical prevention work looks like and what our plans for the future in our community are collaboratively to address homelessness with a prevention lens. So that first slide you see, the only cure for homelessness is a home. We know that that's true. Our community has implemented some really innovative and great housing first effective programs to assist people into getting housing. But we know that when one family leaves the shelter and gets into housing, there is another family that comes off of the wait list and moves into their shelter bed. And sometimes that shelter bed is still warm. So this cycle just continues. We collectively just, have really been focusing on that and wanting to change this narrative. So we're proposing a new emphasis on prevention of homelessness, not in opposition to or as a replacement for focusing on housing, but really to complement it. We want to ensure that people who have experienced homelessness and get into housing don't have to experience homelessness again. Next slide, please. A lot of the work that we do, and there's a lot of different agencies in our community that do homeless prevention work, different varieties and offer different kinds of services. But we're all sort of guided by these same similar principles, which were laid out by the National Alliance to End Homelessness. And they really kind of weave together all of our mission, vision, and values from multiple agencies. So I'm just going to touch on them briefly. The first principle is about crisis resolution. We recognize that any situation that can lead to homelessness is a crisis for the individual or the family that's experiencing it. So our first goal, of course, is to respond and provide safety plans for those who are in an unsafe living situation, but then really to assist with identifying realistic action steps that they can take to rapidly resolve that crisis. It's first and foremost about ending homelessness or preventing the loss of housing, but then to make sure that they have a plan going forward to keep their housing stable. The second principle is client choice, respect, and empowerment. We really want to build on the strengths that the family has. We know that at one point things were going a lot better before the crisis happened, and maybe it was a loss of a job or an injury that prevented them from working, a pandemic. I mean, who knows? The variety of reasons are very vast. We want to help that family regain a sense of control so they can overcome those challenges that are in front of them. The third principle, provide the minimum assistance necessary for the shortest time possible. This is really about being aware that we have limited resources. So we want to reserve those resources to those who are most likely to become homeless without some sort of intervention. By providing the lightest touch possible, that allows us to assist more households in need in our community. The fourth principle, maximize community resources. Sarah and I know Senka and Presentation Partners in Housing alone cannot end homelessness. We really need to rally and work as a community. There are, it takes healthcare, it takes education, it takes childcare, employment sector, and then of course all of our providers and partner agencies in the homeless service provider sector to work towards this goal. But when we assist somebody in keeping or getting into housing, we want to make sure that they know about those community resources that will be available to them for the long run so that they're able to continue to stay in housing. And then that last principle, the right resources to the right people at the right time. Again, we know not everybody who loses their job becomes homeless, and certainly not everybody who receives an eviction notice becomes homeless. There isn't like a perfect system for identifying who is going to become homeless as a result. We rely on validated assessment tools and best practices and really look at those key risk factors. But we know that a household who's most likely to experience homelessness is one who's experienced homelessness before. The longer a family experiences homelessness, the better they get at being homeless and staying kind of stuck in that. So that's why we do this targeted prevention work. Next slide. So kind of going a little further into that and into our target population, of course, first and foremost, we prioritize households who are currently experiencing homelessness. On any given night in the Fargo-Moorhead area, there's over 1,000 people experiencing homelessness. And we know that that's an underreport. Those are 1,000 people that we can identify. Our community has 5 emergency shelters who collectively have 284 beds available. So the amount of people without a permanent place to stay far exceeds the number of shelter beds that we have in our community. So we cannot rely or expect, I should say, shelters to be the answer. We need to start looking upstream and providing a more preventative approach. And then we also prioritize those, as I said, who are at the greatest risk of becoming homeless. In 2019, there was 3,322 kids that needed one night or more individuals who needed to stay one night or more in the shelter. That number included 975 kids. And so for context, I usually tell people that's the number of students who attend Fargo North High School. The same number of kids that needed shelter last year was the number of kids who attend North High School. So we really have to work on addressing that. 46% of shelter guests last year entered shelter directly after losing their housing. So there's a critical point in time when we can identify households in crisis and rally resources around them at that time. They shouldn't have to become homeless in order for the system to respond and provide assistance. The next slide, please. So why do we do this work? What's it all about? It's really about slowing that inflow into the homeless response system. Right now, there's more people entering homelessness and getting stuck in that process in between than there are people who are leaving and getting into housing. And so there's just that bottleneck there. It is definitely the most humane way to respond to those experiencing a housing crisis, when families can stay together and can stay in housing, not lose jobs, not have to reroute their kids into new school systems. If we can prevent the trauma associated of becoming homeless, to say nothing of the economic impact, of course. There's a very real cost to experiencing homelessness. You can ask any library worker, any teacher, and in fact, Presentation Partners in Housing did a study about this. We have a housing navigation program, which works with individuals who have experienced chronic long-term homelessness. And we calculated the number of emergency service utilizations for things like detox stays, emergency room usage, ambulance rides, nights in jail, nights in shelter, calculated that for a 3-year average before they got into housing, and then an average, or then the total after they got into housing and maintained housing for 6 months to 3 years. And that cost savings to the community was over $1 million over 3 years. So we know there's an economic impact to keeping people in housing. Next slide, please. So the work that Sarah and I have been embarking on and continue to work on, we've established this 3-year pilot project beginning this month to go through 2023. It's a pilot project, but it's really being led by Senka, CAP-LP, which is Lakes and Prairies and Moorhead, and Presentation Partners in Housing. And then, of course, working with all those other mainstream resources, the faith-based community, the shelters, Salvation Army, those kind of programs. Our big lofty goal is to prevent homelessness for 90% of individuals and families by 2023. Next slide. Homelessness is solvable. We truly believe that. We absolutely can solve homelessness, and we feel that the answer lies in prevention. This is a big goal. It does take the whole community to rally behind, but that is why partnerships like the Red River Task Force and working with the City of Fargo are so key and so appreciative, we're so grateful for that partnership. And that is my last slide, I guess. I think Sarah and I are available for questions if you have any questions about the Red River Task Force data or the homeless prevention work.
I have a question, and it's because I'm new relatively new to the community, but what range does your Southeastern North Dakota Action Agency, what parts of North Dakota? I mean, how far down does it go? How far out does it go?
Yeah, so we serve Cass, Ransom, Richland, Sargent, Steele, and Trail counties. So we're the bottom corner of North Dakota. Yeah.
I just was wondering, how far it went. So the statistics that you have are not just for the city of Fargo, but for all of that area? Or is it just for the city of Fargo?
Cass County.
Cass County.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I have a question too. So what's your turnaround to the point when somebody requested the rental assistance to the time they get the rent paid?
Do you mean through the task force project or in general?
In general.
I would say it's probably, and Sarah, feel free to jump in. I'd say it's probably a couple weeks. Usually just because once we get all of the eligibility information, we have to verify with the landlord, and that can take a few days. And then it has to go through our fiscal department, which takes some more time. And so usually we communicate very closely with landlords to keep them posted and let them know that, we do promise to pay, to let landlords know, and let clients know, so that once we get through the eligibility and approval, then the administrative side of things can take a little bit of time as well.
Thank you. Do any other commissioners have a question?
Mr. Chairman, if I could ask a question?
Yes, please.
Thank you. This is John Strand. I'm just curious, the tone of the reception you're getting in these programs from the owners of apartment complexes, and if you're getting any insights as to, are they generally speaking really cooperative, or are there some problematic relationships out there also?
I think we were in a fortunate circumstance with the Red River Task Force to be, is a win-win for everybody. The tenants who have been struggling to pay rent for so many months, and the landlords were getting that rent paid, and their tenants were getting caught up on rent. So at least with the Red River Task Force, I feel like landlords were very good to work with and appropriate. And I want to say that the majority of them had compassion and good hearts for the tenants and understanding of the experiences that they were going through, and understanding that it was a hard situation for everybody involved. I know that outside of Red River Task Force, we have some, landlords that are a little more difficult to work with or cause, some more barriers for the vulnerable populations that we work with. But I'd say on a whole, it was actually really great to work with so many good landlords.
That's terrific. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Chairman, this is Barry. If I could ask a question.
Go ahead, Barry.
Sarah Hasbargen, as you said in the beginning, the level of need was a surprise to the programs. Can you speak at all as to how this did come as a surprise, and then as far as going forward? This seems to be somewhat of a short-term fix, and certainly the pandemic is not over yet, and the problem of homelessness. So what going forward, what do you see happening?
Sure, and I definitely would invite Sarah Kennedy or Tia to jump in if I miss anything. I think that we really knew the need was there, but we are very used to programs with a lot of barriers just because they have requirements on the federal level. And I don't think we thought we could get the money out this quickly. I think that was the main concern, that, generally speaking, it takes some time to have landlords responding and to, get income verification and things like that. And because we were able to do so much self-certification, and we, had, like Sarah said, landlords really excited to work with us, and they were referring more tenants to us. And then the city's landlord program, they were able to work with landlords directly and make that even more efficient. Getting that efficiency in place, I think, really helped share the word to people who maybe don't normally come to community action or come to presentation partners. They, are living in that day-to-day poverty where they're just, one paycheck away, and COVID had an impact and took away that one paycheck, where generally speaking, they don't access the services that maybe other people do, or, they've been denied because we didn't have capacity to help people for so long. And so we knew the need was there, but I think we were surprised at how fast it came and how big some bills were. We were paying $5,000-6,000 in bills for people who have been struggling for a while, and they were able to get caught up. And there was so much joy, and it was such a great thing for staff too, because they were able to see that joy and able to help people. And there was joy from landlords, joy from people who were applying, and I feel like that was a really great experience. Moving forward, this is not totally in my realm of expertise, but in planning, my knowledge is that the $200 million of rent assistance that's coming in through the recent legislation is meant to kind of help bridge that, hopefully. And we're trying to advocate and communicate with Governor's Office, Department of Health and Human Services, and anybody who will listen, basically just, want to advocate for people and, make sure that money is used for people in need. Did I answer your question, Barry?
Okay, Okay, I do have a question also. This is Cheryl Schafel. And, you know, the amount that you have, you talk about, you know, the rents and working with landlords, getting people in. That doesn't include the auxiliary costs, does it? Because when you're moving someone into an apartment that's been homeless, they need furniture, they need household goods, they need deposits, things like that. Is that covered by other organizations, or do you take that into consideration?
Yeah, so when we meet with families, we really address kind of everything that's going on, and we know there's those ancillary costs associated. Our programs typically can provide rent and deposit assistance, utility assistance as well. But we do try to maximize those community resources and connect with nonprofits that have furniture donations. If there's a way to get individuals connected to some of those other resources, we definitely try to tap into those as well.
And one thing I would add is that the United Way did a Home for Good supply drive with their partner companies, and we were able to get a lot of fantastic donations that help with move-in kits to help people get some of those move-in items. And then we connect with other of the, you know, a lot of great organizations in the community to help with the furniture.
All right, thank you.
Any other question? Yeah, thank you, Sarah and Sarah, for coming. Our next item is the work group reports. Us commissioners, we have formed 3 work group work plans. The 3 groups are structured around 3 goals. Goal number 1 is to create a more inclusive community by formally protect rights. Carolyn and Cody, do you have any updates for us?
Hey, Matur. I can give a small update on that. Carolyn and I have met a couple times over the last month, and we're actively working on some stuff. There are some larger efforts, I guess, that are also working on it that we're trying to collaborate with and not duplicate things. So I think that it'll take us a couple more months to have something more fleshed out for this meeting. But yes, we are currently working on it, and hopefully next month we'll have a much more efficient answer for you.
Thank you. Group 2 is the increase and promote diversity, equity, inclusion, and anti-discrimination practice within the city government. This group is myself, Letitia, Abdulwali, and Hamid. Hamid, do you have any updates for us? Or Abdulwali?
I will refer to Letitia. I think she had the note and volunteered to speak on it.
Okay, I'm not sure if she joined us today.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me? This is Leticia.
Oh,
hello.
Somewhere.
Yes. Hello, Mr. Chairman. We did not meet this time. We met and provided a report at last month's meeting. We might need to maybe review and provide more details if it's necessary, but we thought that we had provided the recommendations and some concrete activities that could be done by the City of Fargo under that objective. So maybe staff can give us more direction if they need us to do more work. We could convene and continue maybe digging deeper. Thank you.
Thank you. And group 3 is to promote and grow community-wide effort related to diversity, equity, inclusion, and anti-discrimination. This group are Amida, Barry, and Cheryl. Do you have any updates for us?
Amida, are you prepared to be our spokesperson again this month?
Well, we just we just received the research done by Leticia to refer back and get some ideas, and I think we don't have anything to share today, probably in the next couple of months.
Thank you. The next
we did have a good meeting with Leticia and appreciated the kind of input and baseline that she was able to provide us. So we have met this month.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Barry. Thank you, Amita. The next item here is the police liaison updates. So we have Lieutenant George Benson, the Fargo Police Department liaison to the HRC, will provide an update, including the Fargo Police Department recent work on developing visions, mission, and value statement.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you all for your time. I did want to touch briefly on what Matur mentioned about our vision, mission, and values. You may recall Chief Zabolski's 90-day plan from being selected as police chief. One of those plans within that first 90 days was to create a vision, mission, and values which would guide our police department into the future on how we handle certain things, everything really, in what we do, whether it's hiring, promotions, lateral transfers, things we work on, and it kind of defines who we are, why we are, and who we serve. And so our vision really was aimed to provide an ideal state where we would be as a police department in a perfect world. Our mission is defined as what we do on a daily basis to achieve that vision, and our values kind of define what our department is and what we feel is important in a police department. And so Chief Zabolski commissioned a committee within the police department, which was representative of several different groups, detectives, officers, civilian staff, supervisors, and their task was to get input from the various work groups within the police department and to try to come up with this vision, mission, and values, which is going to be so important to us. I had the opportunity to serve on that committee as the chairperson, and Chief Zabolski will be making a public announcement soon. But one thing I wanted to share with the HRC today was how impressed I was at staff's input and desire to come up with a vision, mission, and values that represents the community at large, not just our police department, but one that we can be proud of in serving our community. So while I can't necessarily tell everybody exactly what those vision, mission, and values are yet, I can tell you that I'm proud that a lot of the concepts that came up from the employees that you will likely see in the final product, concepts such as community trust, accountability, inclusion, and valuing diversity are all concepts that staff felt were important in having in our vision, mission, and values. And so I think that's something that you'll see soon from Chief Zabolski, something that we've been working hard on and we feel is important to define who we are as a department. So before I move on to the next thing, I'd like to open it up for any questions that anyone might have.
I have a question. This is Cheryl Schafel, and I am currently taking part in the Cass County Sheriff's Citizen Academy. I believe that the Fargo Police have offered that in the past. Will that be continuing on, or will you be offering that again?
That's a great question. Yes, we have offered the Citizens Police Academy in the past. Due to dwindling numbers, we kind of got away from it for a while. We started it back up. Our plan was to again offer that in the fall. COVID kind of made that complicated for us, but I do envision that coming back in some form or capacity as soon as we're able to do that in a safe way.
That's wonderful to hear, because I'm taking part in it right now and it's very informative and also a good way to get citizens involved and knowing just how the police force works. So thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. You're exactly right. And I think it provides a very good representation of what a police department does, or a sheriff's department in that case. And I would recommend that anyone who's interested attend that. All right, and if I may, I want to touch on one other topic that came up. The bias crime presentation that I gave, I believe it was at the November meeting, maybe it was October. We talked about how to report a hate crime in Fargo, and just to be brief, review from that meeting that currently North Dakota Century Code, or state law, does not define hate crime, nor does city ordinance. And I know there's some efforts to fix that gap at the state level, and I hope that turns out well. But one of the things that came out of that meeting that we're working on internally within the police department is identifying those bias crimes, or those, it's really a normal crime, if you will. But if it has a bias element to it, then it's considered a hate crime by the FBI. And so we work with the FBI when we get those types of complaints to try to see if it fits hate crime federal regulation. And those bias elements are something that we track as a police department and report to the feds on an annual basis. And I had a conversation with the chief on Tuesday, and we've really recognized an opportunity for us to improve and solidify the process that we already have in place to report and document and share information about bias elements in any type of criminal activity. So one of the things I'll be doing here in the next week or two internally within the police department is creating an educational opportunity for our staff to make sure that we're all on the same page when it comes to collecting that information, that we're reporting it accurately, and making sure that it's being investigated thoroughly, because that's important to us, that's important to the community. So at future meetings, I hope to be able to offer updates as to the number and nature of bias crimes that we're seeing in our community, and what efforts we're taking to prevent or address those issues. And so I appreciate the time. If anyone has any questions, I am available for that purpose. Thank you.
Anybody have a question for Lieutenant George?
Yes, Chairman. This is Barry.
Go ahead, Barry.
Lieutenant Benson, I want to commend you on what you just reported in terms of what the department is doing with bias crimes. And I look forward, as being a part of a group that has been working since August on getting a bill before the North Dakota State Legislature. I hope we can work with you. It's gratifying to hear the support within law enforcement for having greater clarity and understanding. And I know data collection and training is an important part of the bill that's before the North Dakota Legislature. So you're already ahead of the game on that. So thank you for your leadership on that.
This is Cody. I just wanted to second that. I didn't have a question, but really I appreciate the notion that there's going to be more education and more training just on how to collect the data and how to make sure that all officers are on the same page in regarding to that, and then also bringing that back to us. That's really awesome to hear, and I appreciate it.
I have a question that kind of along what Cody had. You're going to be collecting. Is part of that going to be making it simpler for people to report?
Well, that's a goal that we always have, is to make sure that all crimes are easy to report and that the community feels comfortable in reporting those offenses to the police department, that we're viewed as, a legitimate entity that can help them. And so that's always an effort that's ongoing to try to do that. In terms of maybe disclosing what they feel is a bias element, that inclusion that I mentioned that you may or may not see in our vision, mission, and values is something that's going to be the fabric of our being, and so the empathy and courtesy that we'll use to ensure that victims feel comfortable reporting intimate natures of any type of criminal activity that occurs will be a constant effort on our part. Did that answer your question?
I think so. When we had an earlier discussion, I know that you have a link or a link to report, but it appeared to me when we were talking about it that it would be for average Joe Schmo really hard to find. Not easy.
Yeah, at times it can be difficult given the nature of social media, the anonymity of those types of criminal offenses. But nonetheless, there is significant amount of technology that we have at our disposal to use when it comes to applying and obtaining search warrants from a judge that we can execute on those social media platforms to get information that we need. And so while I can't say that we'll be 100% successful, I do know that there are a lot of things that maybe the average citizen doesn't know about that we can get by way of search warrant through a judge.
Okay. I'm talking about even before that. I mean, just something that has occurred, and how do they report it to you? I mean, they could call or whatever, but is there an education about what to do if such a thing happens for the just average citizen?
Sure. Okay. I think I maybe better understand your question. So, of course, anyone can call us. We do have tip lines that we put out there via social media and different entities that we work with, whether it's Fargo Public Schools or those agencies. But also one of the efforts that I think you'll see us up our game in, so to speak, in the coming year is getting into the community neighborhoods proactively to discuss issues such as how do you report a crime? How do you interact with your police department? And it won't be only when the only time they see a police officer won't be during an enforcement activity. Yeah. And so a lot of times people have stories about police officers across the nation, not just here, that is born out of an enforcement situation, such as a traffic stop or an arrest. And one of the things we're going to improve here in Fargo is getting into the neighborhoods on a proactive basis to engage people where they are at and find out what they are concerned about within their neighborhood and try to partner with them to come up with positive solutions. And part of that is making people feel comfortable in interacting with the police department and knowing how to do it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Vince, for coming. Our next item here is a short introduction from the staff about the 2021 budget. Due to the staff focus on urgent community response need, the COVID-19 mentioned in the agenda package will be distributed before the next meeting or in the February package. I will turn it over to Tia, I think, for the staff.
Yep. Thank you, Mature. So this is just going to be a quick summary of kind of where we're at with the 2021 budget process and mostly a reminder of changes in the budget process. You may recall from this fall that we informally mentioned that the 2021 budget has new categories that are more in line with the city's existing purchase policy. So there, you may notice that some of the budget categories that you're used to seeing may no longer be included within the existing budget pack or from the new budget categories. So in the coming days, what we'll do is be providing more details on this. But in the meantime, I'll give you just a brief summary.
Warning is going on.
Yeah, can you all mute yourself if you can, please?
Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you. So I'll just give you a quick summary on what to expect in the coming days of some of these details. So this isn't a reduction in the budget, but rather a redistribution of funds. And the reason for the changes is to be more in line with the city's purchase policy. So some boards and some commissions have been functioning outside of the existing purchase policy, and the HRC is one of them. So the idea is to get more in line with that purchase policy. And what the purchase policy does is it simply outlines the way we can purchase things and the methods upon which we must request funds. So while we have these changes and they look different, the overall benefit and goal of them is that the HRC's work plan, initiatives, and mission will be integrated and connected into the city's overall budget and operations. And additionally, we don't know a lot about this yet, but we will in the coming months, I'd say. But the new director of equity and inclusion position may also play into these operations too. And I think once that position solidifies, we're going to learn a lot more about how they might be using the funds that we're also using. So yeah, again, look forward to more communications coming from the planning department to all of our boards and commissions regarding the 2021 budget. So it's not just exclusive to the Human Relations Commission, but everybody. And one note is we really would have liked to get this out sooner, but as you know, our department has been fully occupied with COVID response related to homelessness, rent, food security. A lot of that was outlined in the presentation earlier in this meeting. But hopefully things will settle down now and we can move forward with some of our more regular operations. But yeah, that's just a quick summary of kind of where things are at, and be looking forward to more communications coming in the near days with from the planning department at this time. So I don't know if you have any questions now or if any come up, but certainly feel free to reach out.
All right, thank you very much, Tia. I don't think we have a question right now. We can wait until getting more into details, kind of.
Could I ask one quick clarifying question?
Yeah, sure, Barry.
Tia, so can you just clarify, since we're in January 2021, are we currently functioning under a continuing budget, or do we not have a budget at the present time in light of this transition?
No, there is a budget. We just need to present it. So the budget process happens way before, the 2021 year actually starts, and it's there. You're funded for what you normally are, but it's just those categories that change. And we'll certainly dive more into that during our next meeting and even before that with the communications that will be coming out.
Did that answer your question, Barry?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tia. The next agenda item is the planning staff updates. I will turn it over to staff to provide an overview of the staff updates.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to very briefly point the HRC's attention to items number 2 and 3, particularly in the staff report. So right now, the planning department has 2 documents. Well, it's really 1 document available for public comment through January 25th. And that is our 5-year consolidated plan for our HUD funds. So that determines sort of the goals and priorities for how we'll spend community development block grant and home funds over the next 5 years. And this plan also includes the first year program year 2020 funds. So that has the actual projects that will be funded under that first year of the plan. So again, that public comment is available until Monday, January 25th, and then the public hearing is January 25th as well. So you can go to the Planning Department's website under the Plans and Studies page, and you can find those documents. If you are still looking for it, obviously feel free to email me and I can help you out. The second item that I wanted to highlight is the North Dakota legislative session. So as many members know, that's underway now. And we just wanted to emphasize with commissioners that if there's a bill that you are tracking as the HRC, or something that you may want testimony on, either as the HRC or the city, that there's a process for that, and it can take a little bit of time. So the sooner the better. And so if there's something that you're tracking, please let me know, and I can track it with you, and we can sort of go through that process together. But those were the two items that I wanted to emphasize. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Next item is, does anyone have any announcements?
Chair, this is Barry. If I may.
Hi, Barry, welcome.
I was just wondering if there would be, and maybe this could be a template holder. We had a great presentation last month about the process to hire a new position in the city of Fargo with the DEI position. Would there be any update this time, and or could we maybe ask for periodic updates until that position is hired?
Yeah, this is Nicole. This is Nicole Berry, and yeah, absolutely. From what I understand, the position just closed, and or maybe someone else knows the exact date when it closes, but it's yeah. So, but yes, definitely we'll give you an update here and keep you informed through the process. Thanks for that.
And I have two more. I forewarn you. I just wanted to acknowledge that a huge event occurred in our community this past week. I think that we've all been shocked and stunned with, and that was the announcement of the closing of Lutheran Social Services of North Dakota. And the shock we know that came to staff and particularly clients. And so I'm not bringing this up as a measure of how we as an organization would respond to it, but it's certainly having impact on many of the people that I feel responsible for as a commission. So I just want to acknowledge that.
Thank you, Barry.
And then my last one, and thank you, Karen, for your announcement about legislative issues. This one is just coming up so quickly, and maybe I'll talk offline, but I wanted everyone to know that House Bill 1298 is being heard before the Human Services Committee at 10:45 on Monday. And this bill basically, it's subtitled the Anti-Trans Athlete Bill, which really would eliminate the opportunity for trans students to participate in sports if it were to pass. And so I think it's something I don't know if we can do this on such a short notice, but I can talk to you, Karen, and I would just encourage commission members to look up that bill and to find out who are on the committee and let them know what your opinion would be on this kind of bill. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Barry. Does anyone else have any announcements?
Chair, this is Karen. I just got a message that the DEI position is open until January 25th.
Okay, awesome. I thought they had it up until January 21st, but that's good too. Thank you. Any other announcements? Is there any other businesses? Hearing none, this meeting of the Human Relations Commission is staying adjourned. Our next meeting is scheduled for February 18 at noon. Thank you all for joining.